so let's continue. The next element that we should familiarize is the point of view. Point of view is the mode of narration that an author employs to let the readers hear and see what takes place in the story. Um, it is the angle of the story, and we have the kinds of point of view. First is the first person point of view. This is the use of the first person pronouns, the I, me, myself, we. Um, Another is we have the second person point of view. This is the use of second person pronoun you, and meaning the writer is not part of the story, and or the narrator is not part of the story. In first person point of view, on the other hand, the narrator is involved or part or taking part in the story. Next is the third person point of view. This is the use of third person pronouns. And then we have language and style, imagery, figures of speech. This is now on um, uh, this is not just in poetry but also in short story. Forms of imagery, we will discuss forms of imagery, the less used forms of imagery, and then the figures of speech, as I mentioned earlier. um, Imagery in a literary text is an author's use of vivid and descriptive language to add depth to his or her work. It appeals to human senses to deepen the reader's understanding of the text or of the literary work. Powerful forms of imagery engage all the senses of the readers. That is, the readers must be able to encourage readers to have them use their their senses, right? Senses. We have visual imagery. This imagery pertains to the use of the sense of sight, uh, graphics, visual scenes, pictures through the use of words. Um, Meaning, we're going to describe what really happened in the story using effective words in a way that readers can see and feel what we have heard, what we have seen, what we have felt. What we heard should be heard also by our readers. What we tasted should be tasted also by the readers. If we fail to do that, that means to say that we still have a long way to go for us to become good writers. And then we have auditory imagery, pertains to sounds, noises, music, or the sense of hearing. Okay, auditory pertains to our sense of hearing. So the noise, sounds, music, this kind of imagery may come in a form of onomatopoeia, the tweeting of the birds, of the snakes, the sound of nature. And then we have olfactory imagery. This pertains to odors, scent, or the sense of smell. So again, what we smelled should be smelt also by our readers. As writers or as writers, we should allow our readers to smell what we did smell. And then gustatory imagery. So on the other hand, as readers, because we are focused more on reading literary pieces, so we should know um, what happened to the characters in the story, that whatever they felt in a certain situation must be felt also by us readers. Others we have gustatory pertains to flavors or the sense of taste. So what the author has tasted must be experienced or tasted also by us readers. Tactile imagery pertains to physical textures or the sense of touch. Okay. Image examples of imagery using visuals. Again, imagery using visuals or the visual imagery is an imagery that pertains to our sense of sight. Example, when we read this example, we should be able to see or picture out what was being described by the writer. The night was black as ever, but bright stars lit up the sky in beautiful and varied constellations, which were sprinkled across the astronomical landscape. When we read the paragraph or that example, it's like magical that we see the night as black as ever, and that uh, it the sky was beautiful, and it has varied, or yes, it has varied constellations. See um, wha- whatever was written by the writer should also be experienced by us readers. We should also through this way, the, because the author wrote this example this way, um, it allows us to see and picture out how beautiful that night was. In this example, the experience of the night sky is described in depth with color, black as ever, bright night. And the shape, it tells us of a shape of stars, that it's in varied constellations. And it also has patterns, the sprinkles, like an astronomical landscape. Imagery using sounds. So again, using sounds, this is auditory imagery. This pertains to our sense of hearing. So example, silence was broken by the peal of piano keys as Journelle began practicing her concerto. Here, auditory imagery breaks silence with a beautiful sound of piano keys. So it's as if we are also listening to those piano keys or the music or the sound it produces. Next, image reusing scent. Example, she smelled the scent of sweet hibiscus wafting through the air. Its tropical smell, a reminder that she was on vacation in a beautiful place. The scent of hibiscus helps describe a scene which is relaxing, warm, and very welcoming. Another, we have imagery using taste. Example, the candy melted in her mouth in swirls of bittersweet chocolate and slightly sweet but salty caramel blended together in her tongue. In here, thanks to an in-depth use or description of the candy's various flavors, the readers can almost experience the deliciousness of the candy directly. Next, we have imagery using touch. After the long run, he collapsed in the grass with tired and burning muscles. The grass tickled his skin and sweat cooled on his brow. In this example, imagery is used to describe the feeling of strained muscles. Grass tickle and and sweat cooling on the runner's skin. Next, we have figures of speech. First off, we'll have alliteration. The alliteration is the repetition of initial consonant sounds. Example, he acts silly at times, but he was blessed with a brilliant brain. So the initial consonant sound repeated in this example is the initial consonant sound B or the letter B. Next, we have anaphora. Anaphora means the repetition of the same word or phrase at the beginning of successive clauses or verses. This is the contrast of epiphora or apostrophe. Example, I remember a piece of old wood with termites running around all over it. The termite man found under our front porch. I remember downtown whole sidewalk areas of solid grasshoppers. So the repeated clause in the example is I remember, and that is the anaphora. Chiasmus. It is a verbal pattern in which the second half of an expression is balanced against the first, but with the parts reversed. Example: never let a fool kiss you, or a kiss fool you. Again, it is a pattern in which the second half of the statement is balanced against the first, but with the parts reversed. Okay? The same words are used, but the thought is reversed. Again, example: never let a fool kiss you, or a kiss fool you. We remember what we want to forget, and we forget what we want to remember. That is another example of chiasmus. Another is euphemism. We heard a lot about this. This is the use of inoffensive terms um, um, as a replacement or representing another oppressive or offensive term. Example: the use of adult entertainment instead of pornography, the use of chronologically challenged instead of calling the person late. Another is comfort woman instead of prostitute. And the most known is the use of rest instead of die or death. Next is oxymoron. It is a figure of speech in which incongruous or contradictory terms appear side by side, like deafening silence, weirdly normal, bittersweet, heavy diet, sad joy, unpopular celebrity, and many more. Next, we have synecdoche, a figure of speech in which a part is used to represent the whole. For example, ABCs representing the alphabet. 1, 2, 3 representing our numbers. Another, gray bird refers to an old man. Gray bird. Right? Next is understatement, making a situation seems less important or serious than it is. Understatement. Example: he is not too thin while describing an obsessed person. Another is another element that we should know about is the diction. This can be defined, we already discussed this, the style of speaking or writing of the writer in any literary piece. Next, we have the setting. Setting is the time and place in which the story happens. Authors often use descriptions of landscape, scenery, buildings, seasons, or weather to provide a strong sense of setting. And a setting function has functions. First, to create a mood, to describe first the mood, or to present the mood in the story or in a particular situation in the story. Another is to show the reader a different way of life, to make the action seem more real, and to be the source of the conflict. The setting can be the source of the conflict, to symbolize an idea too. There are types of setting. We have single location setting, meaning one location, one area only. And we have kitchen sink setting, the dining area, is still part of the kitchen sink setting. Multiple location too, we have that. Next element of a short story that we should know about is the conflict. This is very important. In every story, conflict is very important. Without this, a story can never be effective. It is a struggle between two people or things in a short story. The main character is usually on one side of the central conflict, and this allows our characters to move and to make action too. We have six kinds of story conflicts. We have person versus person, meaning uh, the protagonist is the person and the antagonist is another person. Person versus nature. So, an example of person versus person uh, conflict is the story of mm, the typical stories that we have in the Philippines. And then person versus nature. This is when our protagonist like explores in the forest, and in there, the protagonist saw a a big bear or whatever, tiger, and the protagonist was attacked or whatever. That is the nature. The conflict is between the person and the nature. Now there is example of person versus nature is earthquake. uh, in San Andreas movie, the 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 conflict is that of a person versus nature. Another is person versus self. This is an internal conflict. The person is struggling something inside. It could be the person's uh, inferiority. It could be the person's lack of confidence. It could be the person's interest. Um, anything, any conflict that involves the character and the character's inner self. That is person versus self. Another is for person versus society. So our protagonist, uh, the antagonist of the rival of our main character is the society. Example of this is in Hunger Games, um, in Merlin, in some stories or situations or parts of the stories, there are yes, there are some parts of the stories that seem to be person versus society in some areas too, or in some parts. The conflict is person versus person, person versus nature, because a writer can incorporate conflicts or can use different kinds of conflicts in one story. Now there is person versus supernatural. Now we can the readers uh, can then say that the main character has or the story has something to do with gods and goddesses, or the main character is being given help by the gods and goddesses for him or her to succeed in whatever journey or adventure he is trying to carry on. Next, we have person versus technology. This is uh, 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 the common example of this is that story of Victor Hugo, wherein the rival of the main character is the machine, right? That is knowledge. Next, we have irony in setting, irony in symbol. Irony shows contrast between what seems and what is and what could be. So we have three types of irony: the what seems, what is, and what could be. So we have verbal, situational, or dramatic. So in verbal irony, this is the use of words to mean something different than what they appear to mean. So this is referred to as the what seems in the definition of irony. Uh, this can be associated with sarcasm too. Okay. Another is situational irony, the difference between what is expected to happen and what actually happens. For example, um, again, what is expected to happen and what really happened. For example, we saw a man. He was so tired doing his work, construction work at that. So when he went home, or when he goes home, we assume that he would really sleep or rest when he will be in his home already. But actually, what actually happened is that when he came home, he found out his broken water pipes. So, what we expected is different from what really happened, because when he found out the broken pipes at home, he should really have to fix it. Um, Thereby, uh, our expectation uh, is different from reality. Okay? Another is dramatic irony, when the audience is more aware of what is happening than a character. This is very, very, very evident in our stories here, or in horror stories too, where in when the character is or when the ghost is in the cabinet or in a closet, and then we tend to shout out to the character is trying to open the closet. We try to tell that character that something is in the closet. That is dramatic irony. We know, as audience, we know what is in, or what is really happening, or what is in that closet, as compared to the character doing the job, or portraying the role. That character doesn't really know what is in that closet. Next, okay, a character, an action, a setting, or an object representing something else can be a symbol. So we are now on symbol, the element of a fiction. Most often, the symbol in a story is an object that represents its owner's character, situation, or both. For example, a secluded, near empty apartment might represent the alienation and emotional emptiness of the tenant. Symbols are usually recognizable by the amount of emphasis they receive in the story. Objects intended to be viewed as symbolic may be described in detail, be included in the title, be referred to frequently, or emphasized at the beginning or ending of the story. When we recognize a symbol and understand its meaning or meanings, we see more clearly what the writer chose to emphasize in his literary piece. So that is how important symbol is. Now let's try to differentiate image, metaphor, and symbol. Uh, these three shade into each other and they're sometimes difficult to distinguish. In general, however, an image means only what it is. That is an image. It means what it is. The figurative term in metaphor means something other than what it is. Symbol, on the other hand, functions literally and figuratively. So, image is the literal, metaphor is the figurative, symbol is both literal and figurative. Example: if I say that a shaggy brown dog was rubbing its back against the white picket fence, I am talking about a dog in a picket fence. And I am therefore presenting an image. That is the very literal sense of the word. If I say some dirty old dog stole my wallet at the party. I am not talking about the dog anymore. There, and thus I am talking figuratively or metaphorically. But if I say you can't teach an old dog a new skill or a new trick, I am talking not only about dogs, but about living creatures of any species, and I am therefore speaking symbolically. Next is theme. Theme is the assertion or argument that the literary work makes. It is the central topic of a text that the text treats. Categories: we have thematic concept, and then we have thematic statement. Thematic concept: what readers think the work is about, and thematic statement refers to what the work says about the subject. Functions: theme bind together various essential elements of narrative. So this is the function of a theme. It binds together various essential elements of a narrative. It is a truth that exhibits universality and stands true for people of all cultures. Theme gives readers better understanding of the main characters' conflicts, experiences, discoveries, and emotions as they are derived from them. Through themes, a writer tries to give his readers an insight into how the world works or how he or she views human life. We have kinds of theme too. We have the major theme and the minor theme. Major theme is an idea the writer repeats in his work, making it the most significant idea in a literary work. Minor theme, on the other hand, refers to an idea that appears in a work briefly and gives weight to another minor theme. Um, if you can still remember in Harry Potter, it has a lot of themes, major and minor themes. Difference between theme and subject. The subject is the topic which acts as a foundation for a literary work. Okay, it's the topic. While a theme is an opinion expressed on the subject. What is the reader's opinion, or what is the opinion that the writer would like the readers to have after reading the literary piece? Next, we have motive. Motive is a recurring object, concept, or structure in the work of literature. A motive may also be two contrasting elements in a work, such as good and evil. In the book of Genesis, we see the motive of separation again and again through the story. In the very first chapter, God separates the light from the darkness. Abraham and his descendants are separated from the rest of the nation as God's chosen people. Joseph is separated from his brothers in order that life might be preserved. Another motive is water, seen in Genesis as a means of destroying the wicked, and in Matthew as a means of remitting sins by the employment of baptism. Other motives in Genesis and Matthew include blood sacrifices, fire, lamps, and goats. A motive is important because it allows one to see main points and themes that the author is trying to express so that one might be able to interpret the work more accurately. And that is all for my report. Thank you.